morning, everyone. My name is Elisa Udaskin, and I am a career specialist in career services at JVS, Jewish Vocational Service, located in East Orange and Montclair. A little bit about JVS. JVS was founded in 1939. Our motto at JVS has always been helping people help themselves, which means we help people get jobs and get back on their feet. Our JobSeekers programs are fully funded by Jewish Federation of Greater Metro West and by Project M, and we thank them both so much for their support. I want to acknowledge that many of us are upset and concerned about family members, friends, and the people of Israel. I wanted to acknowledge that before we move on. And now we can move on. We will move on with our program. I am very pleased to welcome Perry Goldschein to be our guest speaker this morning. Perry is a financial advisor with Equitable Advisors LLC. Perry advises clients on financial planning, investment strategies, and insurance with a focus on businesses and environmental, social, and governance issues. Perry is a former lawyer and management consultant, bringing vast business experience to his advising practice. He has worked with a variety of clients over 20 years, from individuals to the Fortune 500. He earned his JD from the University of California, Davis, and his BA from University of Pennsylvania. In today's workshop, Perry and I will share resources on how to manage your money after a job loss. So, hello, Perry. How are you?
Great. Thank you, Alyssa. Happy to be here today.
Very happy to have you as well. So today we're going to talk about managing your money after a job loss. We really want to acknowledge that, losing your job can be extremely stressful, and worrying about money is a big, big part of the stress. I think everybody who loses their job, you lose your income, you're not sure what's going to be coming. You have to look at ways to manage your expenses, perhaps go into your savings. What we're going to do today is we're going to provide you, Perry and I, with resources to help you as you're managing your money. We're going to be sharing resources, not advice. Just want to make that clarification. I know everybody here loves a good deck with resources, and I promise you at the end, I'm going to be sending it out via email with lots of links of resources that will be very valuable to yourselves. So JVS does not provide legal, tax, or financial planning advice, but there will be time for your general questions as we go through our presentation. What we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about filing for unemployment, reducing your expenses and budgeting, exploring side income opportunities, looking for liquidity, borrowing, and creating a reserve fund. So I'm going to hand it over to Perry and ask you, can you talk to us about the importance of filing for unemployment?
Sure. So there are a lot of people, and it may come as a surprise to others, that almost see unemployment as a handout or have some embarrassment around collecting unemployment. But unemployment does have insurance. Unemployment insurance is, as it sounds, it's a form of insurance that you pay into through your payroll when you're working. And it's something that you deserve to have when, as unfortunately, occasionally for some people, you might find yourself unemployed through no fault of your own. And it isn't just an amount that isn't helpful. It can really add up. It is based on your salary. There are a number of things, and I guess Alyssa's covering 2 states. As you see there, New York and New Jersey have slightly different programs, but it can be a real helpful source of income, during that stressful time. And really, almost everything that you need to do for it can be done through the portals, those links that Elisa has there on the screen.
Yeah, and Perry, I think for some people at times after the first step of filing for unemployment online, they also then have resources in each of the government agencies to help find jobs as well. So you can not only get the money to help you stay afloat, but also you can tap into resources that they have available.
Yeah, that's right. A large amount of information on there, and it includes resources for finding a job. There are even resources and rules around hanging out your own shingle while collecting unemployment. There is possibility to do that in certain instances, and and done, to state rules. So a lot of good stuff on those portals and a lot of resources.
Yeah, and Perry, as you mentioned, I only put the New Jersey and the New York URLs here, but if you're joining us or listening to us from another state afterwards, you simply type in your state and unemployment, and you will get the URL for your site. Okay, so what we want to talk about next is reducing your expenses and budgeting. Okay, so setting a budget is really, really important. Not all of us do this on a regular basis. Do not beat yourself up that you haven't been doing it. My opinion is always it's about not what you haven't done before, but what you're going to do moving forward. And it is tough to have to sit down and do your budget psychologically, emotionally, but it will bring so much help and clarity in terms of how you move forward and the money that you have to stay afloat. So on this slide, and I'm going to talk about a few of these things. I'm providing some resources that actually don't cost any money. So there are some really, really good free budgeting tools. Honeydew, Pocket Guard, Mint. These are all apps. Now, when you go onto these into the Apple Store or wherever you get your apps, you'll see that there's a free version and a paid version. The free version has basic tools to do budgeting. Just want to let you know. So when you're going through and looking at some of these apps for budgeting, I definitely think that there's a lot of value in the free versions that you guys can take advantage of. Second thing is searching for savings. So I know from personal experience, I always thought, oh, I'm good with money and, looking for savings and things like that. But when I really had to, it was amazing how many more savings when I really, really, really felt I needed to, that I was able to come up with even more things. So I'm going to provide you guys with this deck, like I said, but I wanted to show you a few of the different ideas of areas where you could reduce your expenses. So in this article, it will go through how to cut spending on home expenses, okay? Switch to reusable items, buy generic instead of brand name, making your own things around the house, how to cut spending on food, creating a meal plan. I mean, I do this all the time. Like, there are so many benefits of creating a meal plan, but one of the biggest ones I think is to reduce waste, right? I mean, I think many of us end up throwing out some food, but when you're creating a meal plan, you really are very conscious of what you're purchasing, what you're making, and it helps to reduce waste, and it helps you to save money. And it also reduces that last minute ordering pizza or takeout as well. Not saying you can't order pizza and takeout, but it just helps sort of like being more conscientious of when you do it. In here, you're going to see that there are a lot of other tips in here about how to, pause subscriptions, do more, having, entertainment options that don't cost as much money as perhaps what you did previously, things like that. So I encourage you, after when I send this out, take a look at this and some really, really good ideas that some of you may already be doing, but others, you maybe new things that you might want to try. The next point is negotiating your monthly bills. Okay, so you may also be able to save money on your bills. So you could look at your internet bill. You could look at investigating other providers that maybe have a better bundle, that are less expensive. You could perhaps see if there's anything else that you could call your existing providers and see if they have better rates. My motto is always, you don't know until you ask. So you really don't know until you ask, and it doesn't hurt to ask. So I always encourage people to reach out to, anything that you're paying for regularly, reach out and see if there's a better deal, if there's a promotional offer or things like that. Oops, sorry. The next thing is addressing personal debt. Okay. So credit cards and the interest rates charged on credit cards are very, very high. And if you tend to carry a balance on your credit card each month, one thing that could be helpful could be just try to start using your debit card or cash more often. It may be even just more psychological to see the money that's going out of your bank account as opposed to putting it on your credit card, and then you get hit with that credit card statement at the end of the month. So that might be, and Perry, I think you've also feel the same way about credit cards, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Credit cards generally the highest, the highest level of interest charge for debt. And certainly those would be the first things that you want to address as possible.
Right. And then the last thing on this area is about the creditors. So if you're concerned about your ability to pay upcoming bills, you can, again, call your creditors, see if you can suspend payments, interest and fees on loans and credit cards. So I've also included on here 3 other articles, how to budget with a low income, how to budget after a job loss, and the best guide to budgeting. So I just wanted to pause here. Excuse me, and we have 2 questions.
Are you talking to me, Lori Lamatina?
Yes. Would you like to share your tips, please? I would love to
Actually,
hear
I shared a couple of things that I did that were helpful. They weren't actually questions, but one was about unemployment. I had a lot of trouble navigating that process, and it's impossible to get in touch with them over the phone. And then
Yeah.
someone suggested reaching out to my assemblyman, and that was the right thing to do because they got back to me right away and actually had someone from the Department of Labor call me directly, which was life-saving. So I wanted to share that. And the
Can
other,
you pause on that
yeah.
one? Can you pause on that one for a second?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
Can you talk a little? I think that's really, really helpful. I know that it's impossible to get through to a person.
Yeah.
They put you in a spiral and then it disconnects. So can you explain what you mean by assemblyman?
Yeah.
And person is,
So
and how you find that person?
yeah, Alex Boris is my assemblyman, and I think I just Googled who it was. I think I just Googled who's the assemblyman for my area, found his name and contact information, like an email address, sent an email, and really almost immediately, someone from his office emailed me and said, give us, they asked a few questions of what it was I needed. I said, I'm locked out. I can't get in online to the Department of Labor, can't get anyone on the phone. It took a little while for someone to call me, but eventually someone from the Department of Labor called me and they followed through to make sure that I was all set up with my direct deposit and was able to apply every week, claim benefits every week. So it was really life-saving because I was just stuck.
That is extremely helpful. Thank you for sharing that. What was your second tip?
The other one was I was saying that I had Spectrum for my internet and cable, and I switched to YouTube TV. And I got a Verizon package, and I'm saving like over $100 a month.
Wow.
So I just thought I'd share that as well.
What was that process like to do that? Was it hard?
No, not at all. I actually asked, I asked some friends, like, what do you use? Who's your provider? What do you recommend? And like now, like YouTube TV is basically an app, and I use it through a Roku. So if you have a smart TV, you can get rid of cable and you could still have all the same channels. And then, obviously if you decide you want to pay for the other extras like Apple and Hulu and all that, that's, a separate cost. And then with Verizon, I'm paying $29.99 a month for internet with Verizon. So that was also pretty awesome. And yeah, and Spectrum was not helpful at all. Spectrum was like, bye. So I just canceled.
You know what? That's one of the that's one of the very first places I think that people should go is evaluating, because there's so many different carriers out there and you could get better deals. Jamie, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, it wasn't really a question, but it was also a comment and some tips about navigating unemployment. I too had some challenging issues that I encountered, and because it's not intuitive, whoever designed those forms and whatever. However, a couple of points for anybody who may need it. One, they tell you to call early in the morning. Trust me, if you call like really early in the morning and leave your information, I did have someone return my calls. The other challenge I had though was I started the process and they said, if you don't complete this by a certain date, in any event, I was concerned about meeting that date because I wasn't getting the calls back or didn't know how to navigate it. I ended up making an appointment outside of my normal area and traveled to Newton, New Jersey to meet with somebody live and got everything wrapped up within like 3 minutes. So sometimes it takes a little effort to travel a little bit out of your common zone areas that are less frequented and get that immediate, if you want that immediate live engagement. That's all.
Excellent, excellent tip. Let's go to the next topic, which is exploring side income opportunities. Okay, so this is a big one. You know, as you're looking for a job and you're looking for a job, you're not making any income at all. One of the things that you can do is explore other ways to get some extra income, part-time jobs and income and things like that. There's a couple benefits, I think, really big benefits about doing this. One is, of course, the money that comes in, okay? The second one is that you are out there, you're off your couch, you're away from your computer, you're engaged. You might have a part-time job with a computer though, but you're engaged with other people and it will help with your mental health as well. Here's an article that I just want to touch upon about, and then I will again be sharing with you 27 side hustle ideas to earn extra cash. So some of them are drive for Lyft or Uber, work for, deliver food or groceries, tutoring. There are all these focus groups. You could join these focus groups and you get paid sometimes like $200, $300 to join these. Resell thrifted items. There's a whole bunch of different ideas on here. You could do babysitting. You could dog walk or pet sit, clean houses. So there are a lot of ideas here in this article that you can take a look at that might inspire you. Something that I did personally was I got a part-time job that offered benefits. It was really important. When I left Mondelez Craft after having a corporate career there for over 20 years. And I think I became lackadaisical about the benefits and the insurance. I just sort of took it for granted. And when you don't have the insurance, I think we all know here in America, that can be really, really cumbersome and really worrisome. So one of the things that I did, after the COBRA and everything ran out was I got a part-time job at Starbucks. Because at Starbucks, if you work 20 hours or more, you can opt in and you can get health insurance. So I worked the 20 hours. I also was writing my book and I did other things to progress my career while I was doing that. And it had the benefits of the health insurance was the main one for me, but also socializing and being out of the house for mental health benefits. So here, I found 2 different articles for you guys, okay, on companies that offer health insurance benefits, which I know is a big concern, and other perks. So here, I'm just going to go down here. 16 companies that offer health insurance to part-time employees. We have Starbucks, which I just mentioned where I worked. Amazon, oh, sorry, this is trying to get me to subscribe. Okay, Amazon, Walmart, Lowe's, Costco, IKEA, UPS, and so on and so forth. So does anyone have anything that they wanted to share?
Yeah, Dean and Scott would both like to share something.
Oh, wonderful. So Dean, you said, and then Scott?
Yeah.
Dean, would you like to share with us some of your ideas or your question?
I just threw something out for people who have been trying to contact the DOL. Mondays and Tuesdays, they are very busy because of errors, people running into errors and problems reporting over the weekend. You usually have better luck Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to get a response.
Okay, thank you. And Scott?
Yeah, I just put into if you're thinking about Ubering, DoorDash, any of the food deliveries, to be very careful. I mean, if you need money to put food on the table now and it's short term, okay. But if you are looking at it to be a longer period of time, those fields are usually you end up with a loss because you have to replace your car a lot sooner. And if you don't have the money to replace your car, you could be hurting yourself even more than the money you're making doing that stuff. So just be
Right.
very careful.
Yeah, that's a good tip to leverage those types of jobs more for like a stopgap or to carry you over. And to think about that. Gabrielle, did you have a question?
Yes, I was wondering what type of Amazon jobs come with health insurance. Because I coincidentally this afternoon I'm going to have a interview with Audible for a contractor role, and I haven't heard anything about health insurance. Yeah, please do wish me luck because it's the final round. I've been prepping for actually an Amazon job, and I'm finding that now the interview rounds with Audible have been going much easier, much smoother. I mean, granted, it's only a contractor job, and I don't have health insurance right now. So, if I can add on a little other Amazon job, just so I was wondering whether you might know, if it's a driver job, that's not so my thing.
Yeah, so Gabrielle, but first of all, we all wish you the best with that. It's not luck, it's going to be your skills and your personality and everything that's going to win this job. Why don't do you see my name, my contact information in the chat, my email?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
How about if you email me and I will start researching that for you. I don't know at the top of my head, right in the top of my mind right now, which Amazon jobs, but I can certainly after this take a look for you. So email me directly, okay?
Yeah, sure, will do. And I also do my own little research. I just became an Amazon associate because while being in transition, that's also a tip for everybody involved. I became a certified travel agent just to diversify my portfolio as senior executive assistant, because that's been something I've been doing for 30 years, booking travel. So I figured, it's just for me now, I have to learn the marketing aspect, like how to get my first customers, who is these days is still using a travel agency. I mean, sometimes for me, because things are like second nature, I don't understand that not everybody has that same comfort level, with booking travel or whatever. So yeah, thank you. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
I hope I didn't get off topic.
No, it's great. Everybody's topic and questions and tips are all welcome, and just email me and I'll help you look that up after, okay?
I would just add, I think, Gabriel, you're right on topic, because what you're experiencing is something that you could build on, and even do separately. But if you have experience, expertise in different areas, especially areas that are in demand, you can hang out a shingle while you're looking. And there are pros and cons. There are things to consider, but it's often something that can bring additional income in, and it also can look good if you're unfortunate to have an extended period. A full-time job is a priority, but you go through an extended period without one. You could say, well, I had my own, consulting practice or whatever it is that you were hanging the shingle out as, and so it helps with your whole package, how you look to an employer in some instances when you do that, as well as generating additional income.
Mm-hmm. You know what, Perry, you brought something else up that really resonated with me. I've had people be concerned that if they put on their resume or that they were currently doing a part-time job, that it would be kind of like looked at as against them, that they were still searching for that career job. I will tell you guys that from my own personal experience, I embraced having this part-time job at Starbucks, as I was doing a lot of volunteering in the community. I was writing a book, doing things, and I ended up my next job being the chief marketing officer at a startup. Okay. It just shows, like Perry says, that you've got grit, you've got hustle, you've got determination, and also that you're willing to roll up your sleeves. I don't think anything is going to be a detriment by getting that side income opportunity, that part-time job, while you are still pursuing that full-time career job that you've been looking for. So thank you, Perry, that really resonated. Maya, did you have a tip that you wanted to share with us?
Sure. I suggested to Gabrielle that as soon as you get a second interview, ask for a copy of their benefits package. That, you know, they're already saying you're a more serious candidate. That way you have that information much earlier in your search.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, so Perry, talk to us, please explain what we can do in terms of, or the different pros and cons of different ways of looking for liquidity. If you could please explain a few of these to us, I'd love to understand them.
Sure. And so these, you know, some of these are kind of, you could look at them in different ways, but essentially, you know, there are penalties, obviously, for accessing certain assets that people have over time, retirement funds. Many people are aware penalty before you reach 59 and a half. So, you know, there are different ways to access funds and under less well-known programs. So some of these listed here are among those. We just finished toward the end with that last section on hanging out your own shingle. And if you are doing your own thing while you're looking, you know, there's a couple of things to consider. One is either setting up a solo or owner 401k, as it's called, and that is a type of retirement plan that is not as common, but it does exist and people do it. And you can, when you're looking at the provider, you'll want to ask questions. It's an optional provision to include in those that not all providers offer, that allows you to borrow funds against the funds in that plan. And it's typically up to $50,000 or 50% of the assets, whatever's in there. And you know, you again, you don't want to touch retirement funds unless you have to. So this is kind of what I was trying to say before, getting a little bit further along toward the bottom of the priority as you're trying to find the funds that you need. But it does exist. It is helpful in certain instances. And the silver lining, at least on that first one that Alyssa has bulleted on the screen, is that you're paying yourself back. And the provider will actually have an interest level that you pay. It's generally at least, if not more reasonable than you might, you know, be able to borrow elsewhere. And all of that is funds going back to yourself, your account. So some people find that useful. The next one on that list is the ROBS stands for rollover for business startups. That's even less common IRS program. It's not unknown in the franchise industry, but you don't have to be buying a franchise to access that program. There are providers that specialize in helping you with the intricate IRS rules in those programs. And unlike borrowing against your retirement funds, in that instance, you're using at least part of your retirement funds to invest in equity in your own business. And so that's also another way, especially if you're looking at hanging out your own shingle, or even another option for certain people that are unemployed now. You might have funds early on in the process where you might be entrepreneurial. You might consider buying an existing business, and that's a whole other ball of wax. So I won't go too far down that rabbit hole now. But that ROBS program with the IRS can be a way to help with those kinds of things. And so those are some of the main things that you know, that we think of when we look at liquidity. There are a couple of more on the next slide for borrowing, but I'll stop there.
I don't think you, Perry, I don't think we have any questions right now. Excuse me. So if you could please talk to us about borrowing.
Okay, sure. So some other things that you can consider. HELOC there stands for home equity line of credit, or just a home equity loan. HELOCs are available, obviously, if you are a homeowner and you have equity in your home, enough equity, you can access funds through the bank, through that HELOC, almost like similar to like a second mortgage. because you already have equity and you're borrowing against that equity from the bank's perspective. And those could even be interest-only loans. It depends upon the provider and what they offer. But if they're interest-only, then you're having, considerably lower payments to have to worry about on an ongoing basis as you borrow through that type of vehicle. And then some of the more obvious ones, obviously borrowing from relatives or friends, credit cards. Somebody put in the chat box earlier that yes, credit cards are a double-edged sword. So standard credit card rates, which is what happened if you hold a credit card long enough, no matter which card you have, that's how the banks make their money. But they're very high, the standard rates, compared to almost any other vehicles that you can use to borrow money. But there are card offers constantly. So and I think most folks on the line probably know because so many people get offers in the mail or see them advertised, that there are certainly plenty of opportunities to open up a credit card account with all kinds of banks that offer 0% interest for a period of time, typically from 12 to 18 months, where you can you can do two things. You can transfer an existing balance to those cards and not pay anything for that time as far as interest goes, although they have upfront charges typically on those. But if you just open up an account, there are options where there are no upfront costs, and you can use the card to pay for things and then not pay any interest for that period. So that's certainly another option to look at. There are even programs, professional programs, where companies will help people be serial card openers. And again, that's going down a different rabbit hole, but just to alert people, you can Google that and see it. It can help with the business idea as well, if that's of interest. Really creative things you could do with those offers. What's not listed there, a couple other things I would touch on as far as the borrowing. Many people have life insurance policies. It's about half of Americans. Of those policies, there are two basic types. One is permanent life insurance. It's known as, otherwise known as cash value, because those policies typically do create a level of cash value for policyholders. And the other type is term, which is does not create cash value, but covers the risk should you pass to help provide money for your beneficiaries, family members, others that you identify. And the permanent life policies that create cash value, a common feature on the vast majority, if not all, is that you can access the cash value in those policies without losing the coverage. You could do that by borrowing. You could do it in other ways. Primarily, it's borrowing, and that's similar to that solo or owner 401k, in that you then pay yourself back on a certain, under certain terms.
So Perry, with that, Perry, with that example, when you borrow against your life insurance, the permanent, is the interest rate really high, or the fees to do that?
No, generally the interest rates
Okay.
are pretty competitive compared to other forms of borrowing.
Okay.
Typically they're lower than, like, one of the other things out there we didn't talk about also with personal loans. There are companies like Discover that offer personal loans what's the word, when you don't have anything, without, unsecured loans. So you don't have to, it's not a mortgage against a house or anything against any other assets you own. It's just on your credit. If you have reasonably good credit or better, it's possible to get a personal loan. And so, that's just another way. But I'm sorry, I don't know if I answered your question, Lisa.
Yeah, you did, because I was just wondering when we were talking about, all the different, for me, what always stands out is interest rate, what are the payments to borrow the money, like to evaluate which option. And so when you were talking about permanent, taking out a loan against your life insurance, I just wanted to know sort of how that stacked in terms of cost to take out that money.
Right, right. And that's right. And so yeah, certainly personal loans, the rates that I've seen, and some of this is from life experience, but some of those are certainly much lower than the standard credit card rates. And then home equity lines of credit, permanent life policies, the rates that you can borrow against those are even lower than those unsecured personal loans.
And our last topic is we are going to talk about creating a reserve fund. Harry, what happens when you lost your job and you're not making a lot of money? What are your thoughts on how to approach this reserve fund? And hopefully you've had a reserve fund, I guess, is one of the things.
Sure. So a reserve fund, or also, known as an emergency reserve fund or rainy day fund, pretty common concept in finance, and we advise clients all the time to have, as a rule of thumb, 3 to 6 months of income set aside, whether in a savings or another account, so that you have it for unexpected expenses that pop up. And certainly being unemployed might be one of those unexpected events. Large home-oriented repairs, furnace, or other could be another unexpected, sizable expense. And having that emergency refund is very helpful to reduce the stress. You have a place where you can then address and pay off any of those expenses, or have some income or something to take out in lieu of income in the case of unemployment. And so if you have that already, certainly look at using that after you've gone through the budgeting, after you've applied for unemployment, whatever else it is. And certainly that fund, would be something that you might want to use before certainly using, having stuff on credit card debt or either other forms of debt. And so that's useful. If you don't already have that fund, it's just helpful to keep this in mind when you become employed again, to start having savings put aside from your paycheck or your income source, even a little bit a month, to build up to that 3 to 6 months of income that you can have for that purpose. And it would be the kind of thing where you could do it in a savings account, but you don't want to leave it there once you achieve the volume, or even while you're building it up. Things like money markets or high interest savings, versus regular savings at the very least. Once you get a certain amount, you might want to keep going. And this does depend on your personal situation. The 3 to 6 months is just a rule of thumb, but you have to look at your own expenses. You have to look at how you feel or how secure your job is when you're building that. But it never hurts to build beyond that. And then once you have a certain amount of funds, you could do even higher return types of investments that are still safe, like CDs, or even modest equity investments over time to help that grow.
Yeah, thank you. And I think also that, no matter what your income is, when you start making income, taking a percentage, like Perry said, even if it's 5%, 10%, it's important to keep on putting in money into a reserve fund for those unexpected expenses. I have Perry's contact information if you would like to email him with any other questions, and my information as well. Okay, so Lori, I believe you have a question for Perry.
Well, yeah, I was wondering, if you want to work for yourself and you need to incorporate or create an LLC, were there any tips on that?
Yep, yeah, absolutely. So there are many lawyers that could help you create. Well, first of all, there are different ways, different forms that you can conduct your own business in. The first one is sole proprietor, which does not require any formal incorporation with the state. Most states have at least a few different types of business organization, legal entities that can be created, but you can also just do business as a sole proprietor. Probably a lot of attorneys might advise against it. The idea of being incorporated is that it helps reduce a level of risk as far as personal responsibility, should something happen, within the business context to you. But that said, so most people that do hang out, or I shouldn't say most, I don't have statistics on it. My gut is that most people that do business or their own business will have some form of incorporation. And it could be two of the more common ones are the LLC, a limited liability company for individuals starting for themselves or, closely held with maybe one or two others or a few others. And then the other is an S corp. And I just give those as examples. I'm not going to go into the details there because, as Alyssa mentioned at the beginning, we're not providing legal or tax advice. And I am not a lawyer, a practicing lawyer or tax professional. I just help clients from a financial perspective, can give them ideas and then help them, pursue those. So any lawyer that does, many general practitioners and most business lawyers certainly would help you incorporate in some form, and they could advise you there. There are also online legal services that could do it for you at a less expensive rate. And they have some that set up and you can incorporate yourself for as little as a couple of $100 or so in that ballpark, for example. And that would be something that you could easily find just Googling, the concept, incorporate online.
Thank you. And as a sole proprietor, you don't have to get a lawyer involved?
Yeah, the sole proprietor, you would automatically be a sole proprietor if you were doing business with people and you were taking payment from them in return for a product or service without any incorporation there. Then you would be, that would be a sole proprietorship.
Okay, and then you're just basically keeping track of your income. So in terms of, so that you claim it at the end of the year and that kind of thing, but you're not, it's not like a separate entity.
It's not a separate entity,
Right,
that's
okay.
correct.
Mhm.
And that's an important thing to know when creating a separate entity. You'll also need to have the information there, either articles of incorporation or other proof to open up bank accounts and potentially other accounts that you may need. It's not a big hassle, but it is a little bit of an extra step. But then many lawyers will tell us that that helps provide a layer of protection.
Thank you.
If there are any questions, I guess I'll be proactive. I'll let you know. I had my information, I guess, on the last slide. Before I have it at the top of the chat when we started. The way we work, there are typically no fees and no obligation to talk with me. So if you do have questions and you'd like to chat later, please do feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Perry. And I will be sending out the deck that has your information in it. So everyone has it. So I want to thank you very much. Thank you for, as you know, all of our speakers like Perry volunteer their time, and it's and we are also funded our program from the Federation of Greater Metro West that likes to have feedback on our program. So we really appreciate it if you could please fill out that survey. It will take you 3 minutes. So with that, Perry, I want to thank you very much for joining me today. I really appreciate all the valuable information you shared and the resources. And for everyone else, I want to let you know that the next session that we have is going to be on, sorry, let me just look. On Thursday, October 28th, and we're going to have Lynn Dansker, who is a partner at an executive recruiting firm, and she's going to be discussing strategies for a successful job search. So with that, I would like to thank Perry very much again, and anybody who would like to stay on, we'll be doing our open networking a little bit early, and we'll finish at about 11:20. So thank you, Perry. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Lisa. I hope this was helpful for everyone.
Thank you.
All right, take care.